Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our virtual town hall meeting. This is our fourth meeting in our series that we have held during the month of August. This series is being hosted by the Department of Neighborhoods, and I'm glad that you were able to join us this evening. During these meetings, we want to be able to provide some general updates to you, as well as some neighborhood-specific updates. Neighborhood-specific updates will be provided by our liaisons for the north and northeast areas of the city, and that's Alfred Acania and Delina Scales. We also have several other city colleagues that will be joining us to provide some program-specific updates as well. We wanted to take this opportunity to share these updates with you, our residents. We are all working very differently this year than we were this same time last year. All of the community activities, events, festivals that we would normally have during this time have been postponed and in some instances canceled due to COVID-19. And we are all learning to communicate in different ways. A lot is going on in our city, our country, and our nation. A global pandemic, one of the most violent summers that we have seen, and civil unrest, all of that taking place throughout our city. We will continue to work with each of you every day to address these issues and find real solutions. While it may not seem like it on some days, we all know that there are better days ahead of us. And now it is my pleasure to turn the virtual mic over to Alfred Acania, who is our neighborhood liaison. Alfred?
Thank you, Director. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Alfred Acania. I am your liaison for the City of Columbus, and I have the pleasure of serving the Northland area, the Milo Grogan area, and the North Central areas. Just a few housekeeping stuff before we continue. We would have links for the information that we'll be providing today. We will also attempt to answer questions live at the end of the meeting. If we are not able to get to your questions, we will make sure we address your questions at a later time once your email is provided. Again, I serve the Northland Community Council, the Milo Grogan areas, and the North Central areas. I want to share a few updates for these areas. For the area commission, that's the North Central and the Milo Grogan area commissions, I just wanted to share with you that due to the COVID, some of the commissioners had dates that were extended to December. Please, we're approaching December, so we need to make sure that we are on with elections. Also, there are seats for some of the area commission areas. The Milo has openings, North Central has openings. If you are interested in being an area commission, please contact the chair for the North Central Area Commission. That's Tiffany White at 614-570-5369. And her email is tiffany.white9@aol.com. For the Milo Grogan Area Commission, if you're interested in serving, you should contact the chair, who is, before we go on, I think our mayor is on the line, and I would have him make his comments before I continue. Thank you.
Well, great to see you, Alfred, and great to be with each and every one of you this evening. I want to thank Director Carla Williams-Scott, City Attorney's Office, Department of Neighborhoods, the Department of Public Service. I see Chris Kozad there as well, and all of the participants in tonight's town hall. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the last few months have been unprecedented. The global pandemic, health crisis, human services crisis, economic crisis, a national reckoning over racial injustice and police brutality, a spike in violence seen in our city and in cities across the country, especially youth violence. I want you to know that city departments and many of our partners have been working to slow the spread of the virus, to help with the basic needs of our neighbors, to work towards an equitable economic recovery, and make lasting changes that affect our community. That in those needs that the community is desperately wanting to see change made. So with respect to COVID-19, when the virus first struck, we immediately put a number of policies in place to ease the burden on our neighbors for core city services. There was a temporary suspension of collections on delinquent city income tax and EMS transportation fees. We suspended water and electric shutoffs. We restored water and power to hundreds of the most recent to lose service, hard in the midst of a global pandemic when we're telling everybody to wash their hands to do so if your water's been turned off. And we worked with Franklin County Municipal Courts to waive evictions and set-outs for 8 weeks. We got much needed funds to a number of partners to help cover basic needs, $1 million for the Community Shelter Board to help with the increase in homeless population and being able to quarantine the homeless who were sick so we could slow the spread in our shelters and protect the most vulnerable. $400,000 for Life Care Alliance for meals for our seniors, one of our most vulnerable populations. $500,000 for the YMCA to help sustain their housing efforts, and over $100,000 to Columbus Urban League for technical support for small businesses, many of which really suffered in the initial days and weeks and months of COVID-19. And we've been using CARES Act funding from the U.S. Treasury to continue to help with the health crisis, the human services crisis, and the economic crisis. Invested over $17 million for human service programs, folks on the front lines helping our neighbors in the greatest needs. $2 million for expanded summer programming, because this pandemic has been especially disruptive for the youngest amongst us. $7 million for Chromebooks for Columbus City Schools, and an additional $1.5 million to help with broadband access for families. $6.2 million for child care centers, $10 million for rental assistance, and $1 million for utilities assistance. With respect to racial justice, you know, it's important for you to know that our fight against COVID is far easier than our fight for racial justice and equity. A fight that's been going on for 400 years in our country. And I'm furious. And in 2020, we're fighting the same battles for the same causes that our parents and grandparents marched for over 50 years ago. I've been very clear that I believe that systemic racism exists in every facet of our culture. It is not unique to Columbus. Unfortunately, it's universal. But I assure you that I've been and continue to be committed to change. We commissioned an independent report of the Columbus Division of Police from Matrix Consulting and found out that racism exists there as it does in the mayor's office, probably in the organizations you work, maybe where you worship or do business in our community. We know that our residents see it and experience it, and so do our police officers, especially our police officers of color. The results of this study are not opinions, they are facts. They are based on the life experiences of our officers and our neighbors. We also received the recommendations from the Columbus Community Safety Advisory Commission, community members with different perspectives and points of view. We're working at implementing those changes that cover everything from recruiting to training and a civilian review board. There's a civilian review board charter amendment. This will be the first time Columbus voters have their chance to vote on civilian oversight of police. I believe Stephen Sayer is on the call this evening, and he'll talk more about that charter amendment. Our Civilian Review Board Working Group has already had its first 2 meetings, looking at best practices from around the country and what will work best and serve the needs of the people of Columbus. The Chiefs Advisory Panel We'll meet with Chief Quinlan to address the needs of the community. We've also been made a number of changes already to the use of force policy, including banning the use of tear gas and pepper spray to disperse peaceful crowds. One of the ways we need to address police reform is making sure the people who police reflect the beautiful diversity of this community. Our application period to select the newest recruits for the Columbus Division of Police just ended July 31st. And I'm happy to report that it's the most diverse list of applicants ever. Over 25% of the applicants were African Americans. Over 18% of them were female. And it's really important to make sure that our Division of Police and Fire reflect the beautiful diversity of this community. Some have criticized me recently, saying that you cannot support the police and change and reform at the same time. I reject those false choices. We can support our officers and we can demand that they change and we reform the Division of the Police at the same time. We fought for body-worn cameras to make both police officers and residents safer. We called for enhanced crisis intervention training to make them better equipped to deal with what they see on the streets, sometimes our neighbors in crisis with respect to mental health and other challenges. We support our police officers, and we believe in police reform. The two are not mutually exclusive, but we all know that racial injustice and equity do not begin and end with police reform. There's much more work to do. My State of the City address in February at West High School, I laid out the equity agenda, an agenda that calls out racism and discrimination where it exists, wherever we find it, and our plans to address it. But what does that really mean? It means reducing infant mortality by making sure that Black babies reach their first birthday and beyond and thrive in their earliest years of life. It means ensuring access to high-quality pre-K, regardless of your zip code. It means working to reduce evictions where we know Black mothers and children are disproportionately impacted and increasing the availability of affordable housing. It means creating more opportunities for Black and women-owned businesses to have equal access to city contracts. It means connecting residents to good-paying careers in the trades. And it means ensuring our residents feel safe wherever they go, including their interactions with police, because there's no greater inequity than the brutality that can happen at the hands of police officers. And with respect to youth violence, something that is very much top of mind for me and everyone on this call, because we're not really just thinking about young people, but our own children. And so I speak to you tonight, not just as your mayor, but as a dad of a 10-year-old who's worried about all of our community and children's future. I want to ask for your help. Gun violence is on the rise in our community, especially amongst young people. Every day brings reports of more shootings, more homicides, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 17-year-olds, not just the victims, but the shooters. Last year, the average age of a homicide victim in the city of Columbus was 37. This year, it's 24. Every single one of us has a role to play. I ask you to embrace these families who have lost a loved one. I simply cannot imagine the grief. I ask for folks to respond to opportunities to reach out to our young people, our disengaged. And I also ask people to report what you see. One of the biggest problems we're having with the violence right now is witnesses who won't talk to the police. If you see something, say something. Last week, we announced additional efforts to curb gun violence in our community. Some of those things involve a micro intervention team of police officers, social workers, juvenile court prosecutors reaching out to at-risk young people and their families to offer wraparound services from Franklin County and Jobs and Family Services from the Family Stabilization Unit versus potential prosecution. Expanding ShotSpotter, a gunfire detection system that has proven successful at getting police to crime scenes more quickly. We're going to expand that to the Near East neighborhood in addition to the Hilltop, Linden, and South Side, and expanding the boundaries in those neighborhoods as well. A partnership between Grand Hospital, Columbus Public Health, Recreation and Parks called Voice, Violence Outreach, Intervention, Community Engagement, to providing bedside intervention to victims of assault and gunshot wounds to help them create opportunities for change. We've also made up to $2 million available of CARES Act funding to partner with social service agencies who have that street cred in neighborhoods across this community. Those trusted community partners embedded in neighborhoods to reach out to these young people directly, leveraging their existing relationships. Remember, the situation we're in right now is temporary, but we all have a role to play in how our community recovers from these unprecedented events, and we will recover. This is a brilliant, generous, resilient community. This global pandemic, this incredible reckoning on race and police, but this is Columbus. And I know as difficult and as trying as this year has been for you and your family, I know that the people of this city will continue to lead us forward in a way that our recovery can be dynamic and inclusive. The reconciliation that can take place in this community because of its wonderful people, and as our desire to be America's Opportunity City, we can realize that together. I know there are a lot of people on the agenda to talk with you tonight, and I really appreciate you sharing a few minutes with me to talk a little bit about what we're working on together.
Mayor, we have a couple of questions if you want to take a couple questions.
Sure.
From Melissa, she asked, I would like to know what dollar amount or number of years gauge projected success of the opportunity zones. Is the city looking at benefits for homeowners wanting to stay in these communities?
Are these in the chat, Director?
Yes, sir.
Let me look at them here. Make sure it's a long question. I want to make sure.
Yes.
So the question was specific to the length in terms of the opportunity zones?
Yes, and what dollar amount or number of years gauge projected success in an opportunity zone?
You know, be happy to follow up with the specifics on that question. What we've really tried to do with these opportunity zones is there are a lot of places around the country that focus primarily on downtown or in particular neighborhoods. We really worked with the chamber and small business owners and community leaders and put the vast majority of our opportunity zones in our opportunity neighborhoods because we felt like the greatest way for us to not just increase the amount of private investment into these opportunity zones, but also empower the people that have done business and worked in these neighborhoods for years to actually benefit this, incentive and opportunity was doing it that way. So we really didn't focus on downtown or one specific neighborhood, but the opportunity neighborhoods where a lot of our work and the work being led by Director William Scott is done. So, but we'd be happy to follow up with specific information about the incentives, the offerings, the other things that we're bringing to bear from a city perspective to match up with that. And we've done a lot of community engagement, obviously pre-COVID in a different way than we're doing now with existing business owners and property owners to see how they could benefit this. We didn't just want this to be a place where very wealthy folks made investments in property, but that people that had made these neighborhoods great for years could benefit from it as well.
I'll add to that, Mayor. Another part of her question was, is the city looking at benefits for homeowners wanting to stay in these communities? And Melissa, right now in our Linden program, we are launching a program with our partners at Nationwide Children's Hospital, Healthy Homes, Healthy Families, for a home repair program in the Linden area to do exactly what you asked. Homeowners that want to stay in these communities but need some assistance with repairing their homes. This was also done on the south side. And so now we've moved this program into Linden and will hopefully look to expand to in other communities as well. And then Mayor, we have another question.
Now I finally figured it out. I was hiding, my chat was hiding from me on evictions.
Yes,
Next.
that's the next, yes, from Angela. Yes, sir.
Angela, thanks for the question. Eviction reform has been a top priority for the Women's Commission. And we've been doing a number of things pre-COVID to deal with the fact that we're a real outlier in this community. Many of you know this from firsthand experience, or those of our neighbors, that you can get evicted in Columbus without your landlord even showing up in court. They can have you evicted via affidavit. And so there's a much higher rate of evictions here in Columbus than in many other communities of our size around the country. And this eviction by affidavit, unfortunately, has to be overturned with a legal precedent, a new case law. And so right now there's a case before the 10th District Court of Appeals that could really right this wrong that's been in place, I believe, 27 or 37 years. And we're hopeful. We have a really strong case, and I think we've got some great fair judges that are going to look at this. Because if you think about it, and Matthew Desmond writes about this in Evicted, that evictions are to African American women what incarceration has been to African American men. And we have to remove this barrier, this albatross to African American women, because it's not just the issue of being evicted. Once you're evicted, it becomes part of your record. And particularly in a tight housing market in like that we're here, then that forces that woman and her children potentially live in substandard housing for the rest of their lives. And so there are a number of things that we've done. Obviously, I talked about halting evictions. We've invested significant resources in partnership with legal aid at housing court to try to help women who may be facing eviction to work out agreements with their landlords to stop those proceedings, trying to really get as much as possible ahead of this. But ultimately, this case, we have a great deal of faith that we will see the right outcome there. But ultimately, what we have to continue to do is make unprecedented investments in affordable housing and making sure that we're putting more housing in the pipeline that is safe and affordable in order to deal with this issue.
That's all we have in the chat.
I think the only thing, let me see here, how will children in virtual school at the time of emergency housing surges? So you heard me talk a little bit about some of the CARES dollars that we've invested with Community Shelter Board. And what we're trying to do is invest significant resources into keeping families from being evicted and going through this process. Because as we talked about, it's not just losing housing. It puts a family in chaos and downward spirals and threatens the academic achievement of young people if they're having to change schools, or in some cases change school districts. And in addition to the Chromebooks, the internet access that I talked about us supporting in partnership with Columbus City Schools, Director William Scott, Dr. Dixon, Director Rakowski, and I announced it this afternoon, and I'll let her share more of the details, that we're going to open up our rec centers, in safe ways, following all the guidelines and guidance from Dr. Mashika Roberts, to make sure our young people, they may be going virtually, particularly in Columbus City Schools and some of the other districts, but opening up those rec centers and programming so that young people have outlets for physical activity, interaction with other young people, safe places where they'll be supervised and have those opportunities, as well as other people in the community. We know how important our recreation centers are and our community centers are And so I'll let Director William Scott share some more information about that, because you can call and go online and figure out, when your community centers will be opening up and what will be available, and get your kiddos and other kids in the neighborhood registered.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mayor. Yes, we will be partnering with Columbus City Schools and some other organizations in the community, some faith-based and other nonprofits, on what the school district is calling LECs, or Learning Extension Centers. And these learning extension centers will be an opportunity for young people that don't have adequate internet access to take their device and to utilize to do their work with a supervised adult, supervised by adults, sorry, to be able to do their work and have stronger internet access than they may have at their homes. And so we're working out the details on on all the sites and getting them set up to ensure that they have internet access strong enough to provide for the kids. So I know that Columbus City Schools is scheduled to start school, I believe, on September 8th. And I believe sometime within a week or two after school starts, the Learning Extension Center should be up and running. And you can check those at the Columbus Schools website, or you can check them at the Recreation and Parks website at Columbus, www.columbus.gov/recreation and parks.
Thank you, Director. Thanks, everybody. Alfred, good to see you. Be well, and thanks for letting me join you for a few minutes this evening.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director. We appreciate your comments. Thank you again. Back to the Area Commission Chair details. The Milo Grogan Area Commission Chair is Charles Tompkins, and his number is 614-580-0280. His email is charles.tompkins@intralot.us. The North Central Area Commission has an upcoming meeting. It is this Thursday, September 3rd, 6 p.m. on Zoom. The Northland Community Council's meeting is tomorrow, September 1st at 7 p.m. and it's a Zoom meeting. We're all virtual now. I'm excited to let everyone know that our new Cal Road Library is coming up very nicely. We'll be having community hours there once the library is up and running. We also have a 94-unit senior housing under construction, 5771 Maple Canyon Drive. It's a $16 million project. Thank you, National Church Residences. As I work with my counterpart, Delana P. Skills, for those of you for the North Central Area Commission and Linden areas, we'll be holding joint community hours for those areas. On my Milo Grogan areas, what I would like to share with you is the fact that, Milo is development now. And what the commission plans on doing going forward is to work effectively with the community so that they get enough community input for any project that's coming up. They would also like all the developers to adopt the Rogue way. Rogue has been a wonderful partner for the Milo area, and they would love for any business coming in to adopt that Rogue style. They also have a fresh produce market at the Milo Rec Center, and they serve those in need. And it's beautiful to be at that food produce on days that they're doing it, to see all the community showing their support. Thank you to the commission chair and everybody that handles that. For the North Central Area Commission, there are a few updates, and I will leave that to Chastity because most of them are code issues. and she will address them. Finally, we are still testing for COVID at the health department. If you need information, please call the health department at 614-645-1519. And that's it for my areas. I will turn it over to Delana P. Skills.
Thank you, Alfred. As they have mentioned, my name is Delana P. Scales, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as your Department of Neighborhoods liaison for Linden, North Linden, South Linden, which we lovingly call One Linden, and your Northeast Area Commission. I will give my updates per neighborhood, starting with North Linden. I would like to give a shout out to John Latham, the chair of that area commission. They are currently seeking an area commission to fill an area commission seat. If you are interested in that seat or joining a committee with North Linden Area Commission, please contact John Latham III, who is the chair, at john.latham@gmail.com. I will add that to the chat later for you. His number is 614-397-5184. The next North Linden Area Commission meeting will take place Thursday, September 17th at 6:30 p.m. Please contact the chair who will send you a link to register for that event taking place on Zoom. In North Linden, we are also proud to talk about the Slow Streets Pilot Project. This is a project that will support safer traffic flow by converting one-way streets to two-way streets. This work will begin the week of September 8th and conclude the week of September 21st. Work will move from north to south, starting with Myrtle being the first street converted, and then Loretta being the final street to be converted. If you want to learn more about the Linden Park Pilot Project, email slowstreets@columbus.gov. We are also, as our mayor and the director said, really working to continue to slow the spread of COVID-19. So you can get a free mask at Columbus Recreation and Parks Produce Drop-Off at Feddersen Community Center, located at 3911 Dresden Street on September 4th and September 18th from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Our South Linden updates. Also speaking to our Lawrence Calloway Jr. is the chair of the South Linden Area Commission. He is hosting the next meeting Tuesday, September 15th at 6 p.m. via WebEx. South Linden Area Commission is also looking to fill 2 vacant seats. If you are interested in learning more about joining the South Linden Area Commission, please contact the chair at Calloway Lawrence Slack, that's LA.com. Chair Calloway can also be reached by phone at 614-452-2998. The director made mention earlier about our Linden Home Repair Project. If you own a home in Linden, you may be eligible for the Linden Home Repair Program, an exterior home repair program that could assist you with repair or replacement of windows, siding, doors, gutters, roof, steps, walkways, or porches. Any exterior improvements that are not done directly to the home are not eligible, and that includes garages. To learn more about the program or request an application, contact Patrice Allen Brady at patrice.allenbrady@Nationwide Children's Hospital. Again, I will drop that information in the chat box for those who need it. Also proud to announce the Linden Fresh Fruit Market construction, formerly the Eagles Market, located at 1464. Construction will begin on this site on September. We are looking forward to having fresh vegetables, fruits and vegetables in Linden again. Northeast Area Commission updates. The next meeting will be to be determined. Please visit columbus.gov/AC virtual meetings to learn about the next upcoming meeting. There's also a vacancy on the Northeast Area Commission. If you are a proud Northeast resident who would like to help, please contact Alice Porter at 614-596-2963. There are also free mask and produce drops in this area. Taking place on September 10th and September 24th, you can visit Adams Recreation Center at 854 Alton Avenue or Howard Recreation Center at 2505 North Cassidy Avenue. Both produce and free mask drops take place from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Finally, for our Northeast residents, the airport noise compatibility study meeting will take place September the 2nd from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. You can join online or via Zoom web conference call. Please email me at dpscales@columbus.gov if you would like more information. At this time, I will turn it over to my colleague, Alfred.
Thank you, Delana. At this time, I would like to turn it over to our distinguished city attorneys, Chastity Barham and Sarah Pomeroy.
Thanks, Alfred. Hi, everybody. I am Sarah Pomeroy, and along with my colleague, Chastity Barham, we work for the Zone Initiative section of the City Attorney's Office. Now, our unit focuses in particular on the elimination of public nuisances that blight city neighborhoods, which includes abandoned and deteriorating houses, open dumping, street prostitution, boot joints, problematic hotels, bars, and markets, excessive noise, and then just general trash and debris. We bring cases in the Franklin County Environmental Court to try and eliminate these problems. And as part of our jobs, we seek to enhance communication between various city departments, including our office, police, fire, code enforcement, city departments of health and sanitation, and various neighborhood and community groups. We're the five of us split into areas of the city, all split up geographically. So I handle the Northland area and then the Northeast area, as well as far Northwest. And then my colleague Chastity, I'll turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, for that introduction. And I am the Assistant City Attorney for Zone 4. Zone 4 consists of North Central, North and South Linden, 5th by Northwest University area, and Clintonville communities. Additionally, Heidi Carr serves as our Zone 5 Assistant City Attorney, and she serves, amongst other areas, Milo Grogan. So we'd first like to begin by addressing illegal dumping. Our office has been working with Refuse regarding instances of illegal dumping. And as the name would suggest, illegal dumping is a crime and is punishable for up to 60 days in jail and or up to a $1,000 fine. This year, we have tripled the amount of cases filed. Would also like to address retaliatory evictions. And so retaliatory evictions, we see this occur when a tenant contacts code enforcement. Oftentimes we see it occur when a tenant contacts code enforcement based on either exterior or interior violations, and then the owner files an eviction in retaliation against the tenant. If you are at risk or have been the victim of a retaliatory eviction, you can contact Todd Dillard at Code Enforcement. We also have a prosecutor in our office, Christopher Clark, who is dedicated to filing and prosecuting cases of illegal dumping and retaliatory evictions. Wanted to also provide an update to particularly the South Linden area. We have filed a preliminary injunction against the property of 2282 Gerbert Road, which is set for hearing in September. There was criminal gang activity that was occurring at the property. And last month in July, Columbus Police Department responded to a report of a shooting where they found a 15-year-old victim where a 15-year-old had suffered a gunshot wound and was pronounced deceased. Moreover, would like to just very, very briefly address short-term rentals. Draft legislation has been submitted to City Council through Councilmember Rob Dorans' office, separate and apart from whether or not a property possesses a permit to operate as a short-term rental. This does lead me to discuss problematic properties. And these are properties that pose an issue to the health, safety, or well-being of a neighborhood and or its occupants. These are properties that are either not in compliance with code enforcement or there is criminal activity occurring at the premises. If you observe such, we encourage you to contact the Columbus Police Department when reporting criminal activity. For emergencies, please contact 911. For non-emergencies, please contact 614-645-4545. If you are observing issues regarding the use or sale of narcotics, you can contact Columbus Police Department's narcotic line directly at 614-645-4616. For noise complaints, you can contact Columbus Police Department's non-emergency line unless you believe there poses an emergency. Regarding code violations or health violations, contact 311. 311 also provides you with the tracking number that you can follow up the status of your complaint. Regarding contacting code enforcement, while code enforcement is limited to the type of inspections that are occurring, please continue to utilize 311. Additionally, owners are provided with sufficient notice to address the issues that are present on the property as it relates to code violations. If those issues are not addressed within a reasonable amount of time, then it could lead to a complaint being filed. They are given a reasonable amount of time to address those issues. If there is an emergency violation that is occurring, then they are given a little less time to address those issues that, of course, if there is an emergency. Additionally, if you do continue to see code violations present as a property, again, continue to utilize 311 and also follow up with your appropriate zone attorney. Alfred has provided me with several properties of concern this afternoon, and I'll be looking into those properties and getting back to him about those properties later this week. I also received an inquiry regarding recent shootings at rental residences and absentee landlords not being held accountable. And the question was asked, how do we hold those property owners accountable? And so in instances where there's a pattern of crimes of violence, criminal gang activity, narcotics, and or prostitution, we are able to file a public nuisance abatement action. We asked, in those actions, we asked the court to declare the property as a public nuisance, and one of the remedies that is possible to ask for is the possible boarding up of the property. But the first step does begin with reporting those activities that are observed. And as I previously provided before, reporting those activities that are observed to the appropriate agencies. Moreover, I received an inquiry regarding sober and transitional living homes. And so these will be considered as rooming houses, and there are limits as to where rooming houses can be, and owners must apply for a zoning variance to exist. Additionally, the permit to exist as a rooming house has to be renewed annually. That said, if there are issues with a particular sober or transitional living home based on code violations, such as acting as a rooming house without a permit to do such, contact 311. Crimes of violence, narcotics, and or prostitution, contact the Columbus Police Department. Instances of illegal dumping, contact refuse. Follow up with us after you've made the calls to the appropriate agency or agencies if there are multiple issues that are present, so that we are able to look into it and determine the appropriate course of action as we would with any other property. Aside from code violations, crimes of violence, narcotics, and or prostitution or illegal dumping, for issues that relate to residences in general being used as sober or transitional housing, those concerns raised need to be addressed towards City Council. And I will now go back to my colleague, Sarah Pomeroy.
Just a couple quick updates and then we'll pass it off. Thanks, Chastity. So I mentioned before that we also handle hotels and bars and markets. If you ever have any sort of criminal activity that is stemmed from one of those types of establishments, I sit on those groups that involve a task force of Columbus Police, Fire, Human Trafficking, the REACT team that focuses on overdoses, code enforcement, licensing. We bring all those groups together to try and troubleshoot problematic places. So just like Chastity listed a lot of ways that you can report those residences, you can do the same for various businesses that may be problematic. Our office did also file a preliminary case against 5301 Hedgewood in the Northland area. There was, I think, numerous drive-by shootings at that location in late July, early August. And so that's another one where crimes of violence can be used to potentially bring a nuisance action to protect the neighborhood. Last thing I will mention is I know there's a lot of concern about COVID procedures at various establishments. A lot of initially was right out the gate as far as COVID procedures was educating various establishments. We have been in contact with some chronic violators, and there is the opportunity to potentially bring nuisance lawsuits under the nuisance abatement code for chronic COVID regulation violators. So social distancing issues, not wearing masks, things like that. We're still finalizing exactly what that process might look like, but that is something that works into our nuisance abatement group task force work. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that we certainly appreciate any reports of establishments that may not be following the rules as far as COVID guidelines. Finally, I will go ahead and toss it back to Chastity briefly.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So just to provide a little bit of insight regarding court procedures, unfortunately, we've experienced a significant backlog due to COVID-19, and we are actively working through those cases. You can track the status of a case that's been filed through the Franklin County Municipal Court on the Franklin County Clerk of Municipal Court's website at www.fcmcclerk.com/case/search. Additionally, traffic arraignments and evictions are occurring at the convention center. Regarding cases occurring in the courthouse, we have limited seating in the courtroom, and we offer more space between tables for counsel and defendants. For quite some time, masks have been required in the courthouse, with security present at the entry of the courthouse to provide masks. Regarding environmental cases, we have people coming in at staggered times compared to before, where we would have groups come in at once. And so those staggered times begin right at 9 a.m., depending on the type of case that it is, and depending on if the case is for some type of hearing or for a status conference. And we are trying to resolve cases out of court whenever possible and feasible. So thank you all for your time, and I'd like to turn it over to Delina Scales. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. I just wanted to touch base with you on if you could repeat the retaliatory evictions number.
Yes, let me provide that, because I didn't provide the retaliatory evictions number. So the person to contact would be Todd Dillard, and he serves as the court liaison manager regarding retaliatory evictions. And so his number is 614-400-9017.
Thank you for that information. And now I would like to introduce Stephen Sayer, Director of Special Projects, Mayor's Office, to talk about the Charter Amendment and Civilian Review Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Delina, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening. I am here to talk a little bit on a topic that Mayor Ginther discussed earlier on in the presentation, an issue that will be on the ballot this November. It will be issue 2 on your ballot this November, and it would be a ballot issue for the establishment of a civilian police review board and inspector general. So this would amend the city's charter, our constitution, to establish both of these entities to conduct independent investigations into accusations of police misconduct. This charter amendment will allow Columbus voters the ability to vote on this framework for civilian review board that has subpoena powers, the authority to conduct independent investigations, recommend disciplinary action, and it is fully staffed and funded as part of the charter amendment. The amendment will provide the foundation for the Civilian Review Board work group's recommendations on the powers, form, and function of our Civilian Review Board, and will help ensure those recommendations are implemented with the full support of Columbus residents. So the Civilian Review Board working group is actually already meeting as this process moves forward to gather input from the community on what our residents would like to see in a Columbus Civilian Review Board should the issue pass in November. The charter amendment will not, however, unnecessarily limit the authority of the Civilian Review Board in the future. It will be able to adapt with the times. So this amendment is a starting point that provides the constitutional framework in the city's charter, but we will continue to take community input. So this will establish kind of the pillars for what this board looks like, borrowing best practices from around the country, but also allowing the Columbus specific input that reflects what our residents are asking for. Details like the number of board members, how they are appointed, how many terms they will serve, important functions like how investigations will be conducted and disciplinary recommendations handed out are all things that will be shaped by the work group with community input, and that group is currently meeting right now. So with that, happy to take any questions if there are any questions on the issue. And if not, I will hand things back to Alfred.
Thank you, Steve. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Honorable Council Member Rob Dorrance, who's a member of our Columbus City Council and also serves as the chair of the Department of Neighborhoods.
Thank you, Alfred. Great to be here this evening with the Department of Neighborhoods and everyone who's on the call. Wanted to take a little bit of time this evening to talk about another issue that is going to be on the November ballot this fall. So this will actually be issue 1, and this is regarding the energy aggregation program that we're hoping to implement under the City of Columbus. So earlier in the year, as at the State of the City, Mayor Ginther made a commitment for the city to pursue community choice aggregation with a goal to implement a program that provides 100% clean, renewable energy for the citizens of Columbus by 2022. This is a goal that has been embraced by Columbus City Council as well, and it's a very ambitious goal. And I want to talk for a moment about how community choice aggregation works, and then provide some details about how the process is going to be moving forward. So for a lot of folks, when you hear the idea of community choice aggregation, it sounds like alphabet soup. You know, what exactly does that mean? Well, right now, there's a deregulated market for energy buying, meaning while most folks in the City of Columbus are getting their utility as AEP or the Division of Power from the City of Columbus, you as a consumer have the ability to purchase your power from any company you so choose. You know, I know a lot of folks have people that knock on their door and offer them to, a deal on their power, or they get on the the state website and make a selection based upon price or what type of energy is being provided, whether that's renewable or not. And that that's certainly an option for folks out there. But under community choice aggregation, the city has the ability to pool the buying power of everyone within the city in order to get a better deal for its citizens while trying to focus on things like renewable power. So rather than just one individual consumer trying to negotiate for the best deal that they can get, this charter amendment would allow us to collectively negotiate on behalf of hundreds of thousands of power customers within the city of Columbus in order to get the best deal possible while hitting our renewable energy goals. One of the great things about this program is that it's not just about the power. It's been announced that AEP Energy is going to be the supplier potentially for the City of Columbus if this charter amendment is successful. And one of the things we've really tried to focus on with this program is the focus on local renewable energy sources. And that's not just good for the environment, that's good for jobs. AEP's talked about $1 billion worth of investment within the City of Columbus and Central Ohio region to meet these goals. That's thousands of jobs for folks in our community in these industries. So this is really an opportunity for us not only to do the right thing for the environment, but also to create real economic opportunity for our citizens here in Columbus. These types of jobs provide good wages and benefits, and we'll be able to build a diverse workforce pipeline to make sure that we're connecting residents who are in need of employment opportunities with these types of jobs that would be created under this amendment. So the City of Columbus has already taken some key steps towards this aggregation process. We brought on an energy consultant and broker to assist the city in helping to create this aggregation process. Columbus City Council passed legislation this past July to place this on the 2020 ballot. And again, this will be issue 1. The goal here moving forward is for our citizens to approve this effort so that heading into 2021, we're able to start implementing this program to provide clean, renewable power at a competitive rate for our citizens here in Columbus. It's really a great win-win opportunity for Columbus, for the environment, and for everyone that would be touched by it. So we're really excited about the opportunity for us to have a really outside impact on the ability for us to use our collective buying power for good. There's a great website for folks if they want to learn more about the aggregation process and sort of the timeline moving forward. That website is www.cleanenergycolumbus.org. We will also be hosting another public hearing on this topic at Columbus City Council, virtually, of course, this Wednesday at 5:30. If folks are interested in watching that hearing, they can tune in to Columbus City Council's YouTube channel or Facebook account. If you're interested in testifying at the hearing, you can certainly contact my office. My email is rdorans, D-O-R-A-N-S, @columbus.gov, and we'll get you signed up to testify if you're interested in doing so. So really excited about issue 1. It's really going to have an opportunity to impact our city for decades to come, and really, again, provide not only benefits for the environment, but real economic benefits for citizens here in Columbus as well. So very excited to be here tonight to talk about that. And I see we've got a couple of questions that have come in, and wanted to make sure I take a moment to respond to those. So we have a question that come in. Is this the same thing as the people who come door to door and sell me on a different energy supplier? The answer to that is yes and no. So in essence, if you currently are using the default provider, so AEP, you would be in the pool for folks that would be aggregated for this program. So, you know, when people think about those folks that are coming door to door, rather than purchasing power through one of those companies, you'd have the ability to work with the city of Columbus, again, to use our collective buying power to achieve these goals. Now, that said, folks could certainly opt out at any time that they wanted to. So if someone came to your door and offered you a better price or had some other kind of thing that that you were interested in, at any time you'd have the ability to opt out. We certainly would want to encourage as many of our residents to stay in the pool as possible. The larger the pool, the better price that we're going to be able to negotiate for folks. So certainly would want to encourage people to stay within that pool. But the way that this program is designed, both under local and state law, folks have the ability to opt out at any time, and also opt back in. So if folks go with a different provider and sometime down the line would like to rejoin the pool at the city, they're more than welcome to do so. So question, will you be automatically signed up if you have no supplier? So yes. So if you have not chosen a supplier that's other than the default, so right now the way it works is that if you have not specifically chosen your own provider, it defaults to basically the utility provider. So if you have not signed up with another company online or someone coming door to door, you would automatically be in the pool that we would be negotiating folks for. Question, who will set the price, and are they taking away competition from other companies? So the price will be set through a negotiation between the city and AEP. Again, our focus is to make that price as competitive as possible. Our interest is making sure that we're able to achieve these clean energy goals, but also we want to make sure that we're providing a competitive rate to people in the community. Certainly, our goals to help the environment are a great thing, but we also know that especially in times like these, budgets are tight, and we don't want to do anything in a way that would hurt folks financially. So certainly we'll be very focused on making sure that price with our provider, as the city negotiates with them, is a competitive one. With that, I don't see any other additional questions coming through, but again, I want to give that website again for folks if you would like to review more information about issue 1, and that's www.cleanenergycolumbus.org. And with that, I'd love to turn it back over to Delina Scales. So thanks for having me here this evening, and appreciate folks' questions.
Thank you for spending some time with us, Councilmember Dorrance. At this time, I would like to yield the floor to Priyam Chowsky from Celebrate One. Priyam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Delina. And really the Department of Neighborhoods team for the opportunity to share a bit about what we are up to at Celebrate One. Good evening, everyone. My name is Priyam Chokshi, as Delina mentioned, and I serve as the Director of Community and Legislative Strategies for Celebrate One. Celebrate One is a collective impact initiative tasked to reduce infant mortality and address health disparities in Columbus and Franklin County. We believe addressing the social determinants of health, such as education, employment, housing, and transportation, can help improve social and economic conditions in our high-risk neighborhoods that contribute to high infant mortality rates. Our 8 priority neighborhoods are Linden, Northland, Northeast, Near East, Southeast, Southside, Franklinton, and Hilltop. What I would like to highlight today is the importance of education, especially the importance of comprehensive, medically accurate reproductive health education. So in addition to having one of the highest infant mortality rates in the nation, Ohio ranks 23rd out of all 50 states for teenage pregnancies. Teen pregnancy is a significant contributor to prematurity, which is a leading cause of infant mortality, because pregnant teens have a higher risk of having a baby born too small or too soon. Celebrate One has recently partnered with Planned Parenthood to implement a peer education program for high school age youth in our community. The goal of the peer education program is to support development of healthy lifestyles and responsible choices by adolescents. We want to help empower youth to be leaders, reduce the rates of teen pregnancy and STIs, and promote healthy decision-making by providing accurate information. Celebrate One is recruiting 60 individuals ages 14 to 19 this month. Actually, today is the last day to apply. So if you or somebody you know in the community is interested, please encourage them to apply to be a peer educator. Participants will have the opportunity to earn a total of $450 in stipends, engage in training, learning, and help influence their peers in healthy decision-making during the one-year program. So interested individuals can apply at ohiocenterforsexed.org. And for more information, you can contact peer education at ppoh.org. You can find a flyer about the peer education program in the Neighborhoods Department Google Drive link. So please help us spread the word. I do want to mention our Community Connector program. Celebrate One community health workers are called connectors because they help pregnant and parenting women and families by connecting them to resources that help them thrive. So if you or someone you may know may need a community health worker, you may need some help finding a doctor, diapers, clothing, want to stop smoking or need help with utilities, rent, housing, maybe need a safe place for the baby to sleep, you can contact Amber Jones at 614-570-3592 or acjones@columbus.gov. And she can connect you to a Linden or Northeast Community Connector. Flyers for the Community Connector program are also in the Google link drive. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. If not, I can turn it over to Alfred. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyam. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our willing and able Michael Liggett. He is the Communications Relations Coordinator at the Public Service Division to talk about Vision Zero.
Awesome. Thank you, Alfred. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Liggett, and actually I have changed positions at Public Service. I am now a transportation planner there. And today I'm going to share with you details about Vision Zero, which is our bold new initiative that makes protecting human lives the highest priority of all our transportation system priorities. Our goal with Vision Zero is to make it possible to drive safe, walk safe, and bike safe as you're getting to and through our Columbus neighborhoods. And we want to work with you to eliminate these life-altering crashes that occur on Columbus streets. Vision Zero is a fundamental change in approach to traffic safety by looking at the transportation system as a whole, with input from local agencies, experts, and residents to consider all transportation users, whether they be motorists, transit users, cyclists, or pedestrians. And that is because we all need to use this transportation network, whether that is getting to school, getting to work, or getting to services. And we all have a right to make it home at the end of the day. Now, we've always cared about transportation safety, but Vision Zero represents an important shift in mindset that views serious injuries and traffic fatalities as preventable, not inevitable. And that is because Vision Zero at its core has one main goal, that is to achieve zero serious injuries or fatalities on our transportation system and increasing safety, health, and equitable mobility of all residents and visitors. And how do we achieve this? We achieve this by, again, making safety that #1 priority by protecting all human lives on our transportation system. In Columbus, in 2018, 57 people lost their lives in traffic crashes. And that number is important to note because that doesn't even include freeways. That is just on the local streets. And this number continues to rise year after year after year. In fact, in Columbus, if you're a pedestrian, you're 14 times more likely than a motorist to be killed or seriously injured in a traffic crash. That is because as our individual bodies are far more vulnerable than those that are surrounded by a steel frame of a car or a truck. Even more so nationally, we know that traffic crashes are the #1 killer of youths aged 2 to 14, and we have to put an end to that. So again, I want to emphasize this important point, that everyone deserves to arrive safe to their destination, whether they are in a car, a bus, on a bike, in a wheelchair, or walking down the sidewalk. Equity is also a major component of Vision Zero. Communities of interest is a term we use that helps identify areas of Columbus that may need extra investment in street safety. Compared to other neighborhoods, people living in these communities of interest may have fewer choices about how, when, and where they travel, which oftentimes puts them at higher risk as they move around on the transportation network. It's also important to note that Vision Zero is a team effort. That is why under Mayor Ginther's leadership, all city departments and many of our local agencies like CODA and MORPC are coming together to ensure that we are all bringing our expertise to the table to address this issue. And together, we are putting together an action plan to help eliminate these serious injuries and fatalities on our transportation network. This plan is using crash data to identify risk in a more proactive way than the traditional approach. We start with crash reports to identify high crash locations, to use that to create what is known as a high injury network. Examples of some of these streets include Cleveland Avenue, Morse Road, Carl Road, Hudson Street, and 161. In fact, in putting together this high injury network, we found that 10% of our streets represent 60% of all serious injury and fatal crashes. And a lot of these tend to be on those multi-lane roadways which have heavier traffic and higher speeds. And what's really important is we want you, the residents, involved as we develop this plan. And that is why we are asking you to go to columbus.gov/Vision Zero to tell us about your concerns. There you'll find a very important survey as well as a crowdsourced map where you can pinpoint the locations you have concerns on or have experienced yourself near misses while using the transportation network. Again, this initiative is called Vision Zero because we want to achieve zero injuries, serious injuries, and fatalities on our transportation network. Zero is the only acceptable number. So I hope tonight after this town hall, you will all go online, take our survey, use our crowdsourced map, and be a part of helping us all work together to make our transportation network be as safe as it can possibly be. And if there are no questions, I'll pass it back to Delina.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate the update. At this time, I would like to turn the floor over to Adam Gray, District Assistant Manager, Public Service.
Thank you, Delana. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about illegal dumping a little bit further this evening. It's been just over 2 years since Mayor Ginther introduced the Clean Neighborhoods Initiative. And in doing that, he began basically the end of illegal dumping in Columbus. He made it clear that we'd be holding illegal dumpers responsible for the messes that they make, and that we would be going after them very aggressively. So some of the things, just to update kind of where we are since that initiative began. Refuse collection has been able to dedicate 3 full-time employees plus equipment at each of the 3 stations that service the city of Columbus. Those crews are dedicated daily to doing nothing but driving through alleys and right-of-ways and collecting illegally dumped trash. In the last 2 years since the initiative began, they have been able to clean up over 10,000 tons of illegally dumped materials. That includes 8,000 tires. Some of the other things that we're doing as a division to try to help combat illegal dumping is the conversion of 300-gallon multifamily dumpsters in the alleys to 90-gallon containers that are collected whenever possible on the fronts. What we see is with the 300-gallon containers, they tend to be a magnet for illegal dumping. The people who are looking to get rid of things illegally know that there's capacity there, and so they tend to gravitate towards those alleys where they know those containers are. So we are working to continue replacing those. That will continue to go on for the foreseeable future, and we will try to replace as many of those as possible. Ideally, almost all of them in the city will be replaced with single-family 90-gallon containers. One of the biggest changes that's been made is when the initiative began, there was only 1 solid waste investigator for the entire city. We are now up to 5. We have 5 full-time solid waste investigators. They follow up tips. They place out cameras to try to catch illegal dumpers. They build criminal cases to try to convict dumpers who they're able to catch. So far this year, we actually have 37 cases, and 12 of those have resulted in convictions. The rest are still in process. We're very happy to have the help of the city attorney's office, and especially Christopher Clark, who was mentioned earlier by Chastity. He's been a really great help. He's really aggressively going after the illegal dumpers with us. So with that, we actually have a new tool in our tool pouch, and we're very happy to have it. At the end of July, City Council was able to vote to approve a total rewrite and changes to Title 13. Title 13 is the section of City Code that dictates refuse collection. And one of the major changes that we were able to get with the rewrite is the creation of civil violations. And so in the past, we've had things in Title 13 of the City Code that were illegal that people weren't allowed to do, but we really didn't have a good way to prevent it. We didn't have a really good way to hold them accountable. We were able to use Ohio Revised Code in a lot of cases for the criminal cases that we were able to get convictions on. But what this does is it creates several new civil violations for things like open dumping in city alleys and right-of-ways, illegally or improperly using city-issued trash containers to dispose of either acceptable or unacceptable waste, failing to arrange private haulers when a landlord sets out or evicts someone, and things like moving the city-issued 300-gallon containers. Also, the new Title 13 also has a new section that helps us to require proper disposal of construction and remodeling debris. That's a big problem for us. We see a lot of that in the alleys. This new requirement means that demolition waste has to be removed by a private hauler. It will no longer be picked up by the city of Columbus. So really, in closing, obviously, what we really need from the public is we need their continued help in being our eyes and our ears out there. The solid waste investigators follow up every day on tips that we get. And the best way to give us those tips is to call 311 at 614-645-3111, or to go to the columbus.gov site and go to the 311 link, or to use the My Columbus app. And what they want to do is they actually want to go and they want to look for the solid waste investigator complaints when they're trying to report illegal dumping. Oftentimes what we see is people will just schedule a bulk stop because they don't know what else to do. They see the trash sitting there, they just want it to go away, so they schedule a bulk stop. What we actually want is we want when there's illegally dumped material, we want that reported as a solid waste investigation. And there are three main headings, three main links that you'll find, especially on the website. It's SWI for solid waste investigator. And then one is illegal materials in the alley. That would be for anything illegal that was dumped in the alley. Construction debris, trash bags, cardboard, anything that someone just dumps in an alley. SWI, illegally dumped tires in the alley. That would obviously be if someone comes and dumps tires. We see that often. And then SWI, illegal materials at the curb. Same thing. All of those illegal materials that show up on the curb, that's how those should all be reported. What that does, as has been said before, 311 really helps us to track that. It helps you to find out where we're at in our process. And it also gives us a paper trail on where these things are occurring. So with that, that's all I have. I don't believe there are any questions, so I will turn it back over. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Adam. Melissa, you have a question. I will connect with Michael Liggett and we'll get back to you with a response. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Curtis Brown, who is the neighborhood specialist.
Thank you, Alfred. Good evening, everyone. As Alfred said, my name is Curtis Brown with the Department of Neighborhoods, and I serve as a neighborhood program specialist overseeing a portion of the Comprehensive Neighborhood Safety Strategy, which is what I'm going to discuss this evening. The Comprehensive Neighborhood Safety Strategy is focused primarily in three neighborhoods, with North and South Linden being one of them, the other two being the Hilltop and also the South Side. And portions of the strategy have also spread to other neighborhoods, particularly the Driving Park neighborhood and Milo Grogan. And the Comprehensive Neighborhood Safety Strategy, as I said, began towards the end of 2017 in response to a rise in violent crimes. And it is a strategy that is spread across several city departments. And all of those departments work together to put resources into those neighborhoods to help lower the homicide rate and the violent crime rate. I want to cover three parts of the strategy this evening. Although there are more, I'll be covering three this evening, highlighting three, with the first one being Safe Streets. Safe Streets began in 2017 and it began in the Linden neighborhood. And as I said, has after 2017 went to the Hilltop and the South Side. The Safe Streets program consists of Columbus police officers that are on bicycles that really focus on community engagement from the perspective of actually being on the streets on their bicycles, stopping and talking to residents, and also working with other departments such as the city attorney's office, code enforcement, and refuse. And when they are seeing issues and problems in neighborhoods, they are working with those departments to help get those issues solved in the neighborhoods. So our Safe Streets team is really a great team that, as I said, helps with community engagement in our neighborhoods and also helps to keep our neighborhoods safe. The second part of the strategy that I'll talk about tonight is our CARE Coalition. Our CARE Coalition is housed in the Department of Health, and CARE stands for Community Action, Resilience, and Empowerment. And the CARE Coalition is a team of social workers from the Department of Health that are really out on the streets in the neighborhoods, helping to connect residents who have been impacted by gun violence or other traumatic experiences, helping them get the resources that they need to overcome hurdles after those incidents. They are not only out helping to give resources, but also connecting city resources to them and helping them get the help that they need after they have experienced those traumas. The last part is our neighborhood safety committee meetings. Our neighborhood safety meetings are out of the Department of Neighborhoods, and we hold those meetings quarterly. Those meetings began in the Linden area, the Linden neighborhoods, Hilltop and South Side, but have this year, since we have taken them virtually from in person, we have held meetings in the Milo Grogan area and also the Driving Park neighborhood. The neighborhood safety committees serve as a way for us to exchange information with residents from a city perspective, and also for us to be able to get information from residents. So if residents are seeing safety issues or illegal dumping issues or anything that has to do with safety, they are able to give that information to us as city employees, and we are able to help to alleviate some of those issues. And we also bring relevant information to those meetings, whether if there are changes from a code enforcement perspective or from a refuse perspective, we're able to give that information to our residents. Our next neighborhood safety committee meetings for our neighborhoods, specifically the Linden area and Milo Grogan, will be held in early November. And those dates and times will be sent to your neighborhood liaison, Delina Scales, and Alfred, and they will be able to spread that information to the area commissions and the block watch groups. That's all I have for the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. Of course, if anyone has any questions about that outside of tonight, please feel free to send those questions to your neighborhood liaisons, and I will get you an answer as soon as possible. And with that being said, I will turn it over to Delina. Thank you.
Curtis, thank you for those updates. At this time, I would like to introduce Chris Kozad, Chair of the Community Relations Commission. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Delina. Good evening, everybody. I appreciate you joining us for our virtual town hall this evening. The Community Relations Commission is the city body designed to address discrimination and civil rights violations within the city. We are a volunteer body housed within the Department of Neighborhoods. And in general, we seek to promote respect and understanding amongst all the residents in our city. We work closely with area commissions, civic associations, and so on to help create positive change in our neighborhoods. In the city of Columbus, it's illegal to discriminate against someone based on their race, sex, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, disability, familial status, or military status. And we work with areas of discrimination around employment discrimination, housing discrimination, and access to public accommodations. So we encourage you, if you believe that you have been subjected to unfair or different treatment, particularly in the last 6 months, you may be able to find some help through the Community Relations Commission. You can file a complaint with the commission, and we can work with you to ensure that you get a fair, thorough, and professional investigation into the situation. You can file those complaints online through www.columbus.gov/discrimination. You can also file those by calling 311 or by calling the Department of Neighborhoods Community Relations Commission directly. In addition to investigating the complaints, we can often come up with creative solutions that work for both parties. We do mediation. In some cases, of course, that's voluntary, but it does help sometimes come up with a compromise that works for all parties involved. In addition, we can offer referrals and guidance for other agencies that might be able to help if CRC is not the right fit for your particular situation. So again, please reach out to us. We're here to help. Again, I want to talk about mediation a little bit more. It is an option as long as both sides agree. It is a non-binding voluntary agreement, but we are well trained in mediation. We have a number of commissioners who are experienced mediators, and we often have great success finding a solution that works for both parties. If you think that might help for you, you can also reach out to us through your neighborhood liaisons. In addition to that direct work around complaints and cases, CRC does a lot of educational programming in our community. We offer programming for residents, for organizations. One of our most popular programs is our annual Lunch and Learn series, where we can address various topics. We focus in on either particular areas of discrimination, for example, housing discrimination, or we will focus in on particular protected classes, for example, age or sexual orientation. They're very popular. Of course, they're virtual at this time, so you can go to columbus.gov/neighborhoods/events to find out more about some of those educational opportunities that we can offer for you. There's also some information about the commission in the Town Hall Google Drive that's listed, I believe, in your comments section. So unless anyone has any questions, I want to thank you for listening this evening and for talking with us. And I'm going to turn it back over to Alfred now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I would like to thank the mayor for joining this evening, Councilmember Dorrance, and thank you, Director William Scott, for being an awesome director. To the communities Delina and I serve, we'd like to thank you as well. We'd like to thank you for your partnership and your patience in us addressing your issues. To you, the city partners who have taken the time to do these wonderful presentations, thank you. Through a united front, we will all help to make this great Columbus what we all want it to be. It takes a village to raise a child. This Columbus can become the best child with us serving as the village. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our series.
Alfred, before we conclude, can we yield the floor to the director to answer one question about homelessness?
Thank you, Delina, and thank you, Alfred. I think this question is from Burhan Ahmed, and he asked about what we were doing, what was the city doing to address homelessness. And you're absolutely right. We have, during COVID, there has been kind of a moratorium on cleaning up of homeless camps because we wanted to make sure that, people that were out on the land were at least being in a safe place. So in some instances, we had facilities set up for people that were living on the land that were diagnosed positively with COVID for them to go in so that they could recover. We are also working with our homeless shelters. And I mean, unlike anything else, this has been a challenge. Normally in the shelters, we would, bring people off of the street and try and bring them into facilities where they could convalesce. But because COVID, the disease is so easily transmitted with people in close contact, we have had to look at other creative ways to work with our people that are living on the land, Burhan. I'm happy to reach out to you with some more details. We did at the beginning of the COVID, we've set up hand washing stations along with our special improvement district in the downtown area and in other areas where we had homeless camps so that those people who were living on the land that chose not to be in a shelter could still access hand washing stations and try to increase their hygiene, because that is one way that we know to stop the spread of COVID. But I will say that that has been a challenge for us as a city, and not just us. I think we're seeing that nationwide. But happy to address offline if you want to reach out to me. I will put Pedro, if you could put my email in the chat for Burhan, I'd be happy to follow up with him. Thank you, and thank you, Alfred and Delina.
Thanks again, Director. This concludes our presentation this evening. Please visit the Department of Neighborhoods website and get all the updated information that you need for your communities. Thank you. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, team. Thank you, colleagues from the city, and Chris, and your colleague from the city as well. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.